Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. It's never been a better time to build a gaming PC than right now in March of 2023. Despite all the gloom and doom that you hear in the GPU space, PC parts and PC components have never been cheaper. They have never been cheaper. So right now we're going to go through three amazing builds. 1440p at about $600, an amazing 4K gaming build at about $1,000, and a super high FPS 4K gaming build at $1,600 with a future upgrade path. We'll also include some monitor recommendations at every resolution for you that are the best picks in March of 2023. Remember, if you get value out of the video, give it a like because it makes a huge difference for the channel. And of course, subscribe, click that bell icon, that way you get notified when we release cool content. With that, let's jump into it. Before that, this video is sponsored by VIP SSD Key. Say goodbye to crazy expensive Windows 10 licenses and that terrible Activate Windows 10 watermark. Right now, use the links in the video description, head over to VIP SSD Key, and get a Windows 10 Home or Pro OEM license for a great price. Pick your product license, then use the PC Builder discount code PC25 for an additional 25% off. Go to the activation settings on your PC, put in the code, and boom, you have a fully licensed Windows 10 for a crazy low price, which can be upgraded for free to Windows 11. Use the links in the video description below. Let's jump into that $600 1440p gaming build. How is 1440p gaming so cheap right now? I mean, look at this. We actually finished out $610. I opted for a slightly nicer case. I spent about 10 bucks more on the case. You can go for a cheaper one if you want. I wanted some RGB in here. I want this thing to also look nice in addition to giving great performance. But how are we getting this level of performance? Well, let's look at the graphics card because that's really the focal point here. Remember, when we build a gaming PC, it's all about getting the biggest, fastest graphics card we can, and it's getting a CPU that won't bottleneck it. We went with the Arc A750, the ASRock Challenger D model of it, which is going right now for $229. And you say, Jason, I thought you said avoid this graphics card when it came out. Yes, when it came out, it was not good at all. It was poop, all right? The performance was terrible because the Intel drivers for it were terrible. They have fixed most of those drivers, and in the recent testing, the recent retesting by Hardware Unbox, aka TechSpot here, they found Arc A750 81 average FPS at 1440p in their 12-game test suite. That's phenomenal. And they listed it at $250, which is what you can buy the Intel card for, which I have sitting next to me. But if you want to get the ASRock version of it, it's even cheaper. I would definitely go with that. Now, they did list here the RX 6650 XT, another good GPU at 1440p, 84 average FPS, so slightly more performance. They listed $300. You can actually get it for more like $250, $260. So the price of performance is very competitive with the Arc A750 if you want to go that route instead. Either one of these GPUs, really phenomenal performance. Say, Jason, what about NVIDIA? Well, what about NVIDIA? Where on NVIDIA do we see anything? It's really the RTX 3060 here. Less performance at 77 FPS. And look at the cost of it, $360. It's absolutely insane what NVIDIA is charging for their GPUs right now. They are like one, possibly even two tiers higher in cost than their performance. So I would go either Intel or AMD here. For the rest of the build, we're just getting a CPU that's fast enough not to bottleneck our GPU, i3 12100F for $106. Totally insane value. This is a very fast, performative. You could, of course, go with a 13100F instead, but it's like another 15 or 20 bucks. You don't really see that much more performance. If you do want a slightly more performance, I'd go Ryzen 5600 here. It's also an insane value, but right now, if we're trying to keep it as cheap as possible and get the most performance, i3 12100F is the way to go. We paired that with just any of the cheaper B660M motherboards that have a heatsink, a VRM heatsink on them. We don't want a total trash B660 board. Could look at H610 board. I'm not a big fan of the H610 boards. You don't really save much money. The Gigabyte B660M DS3H, really nice board. It's got a VRM heatsink on it, and it comes with Wi-Fi 6 on it. I mean, there's not really much else you need. It does have BIOS flashback on it if you do decide to go 13th gen instead. For the RAM, look at the price on DDR4 RAM. $35 for 2x8 gigabyte DDR4 3200 CL16. 2 sticks of RAM, not just 1 stick. Your eyes do not deceive you. Pretty insane value right now for DDR4. Do not go DDR5 on these budget PC. You just cannot beat it for that price. Look at that, $34. This is going to give you all the performance you need. If you want RGB, it's about another 10 bucks or so. You can definitely go that route. I'm trying to keep it as cheap as we can, and $35 is stupid cheap. And also look at the cost of these drives right now. 500 gigs of NVMe M.2 PCIe Gen 3 storage, super fast storage, $28.99. Again, your eyes do not deceive you. Now, if you want 1 terabyte, you can certainly do that for another 20 bucks. In fact, 1 terabyte tends to be the best price to performance. But again, we're trying to keep the total cost down. 500 gigs is definitely enough to get us started and get us going and get us gaming. For the case, I just went with the Roswell Prism S500. I really do like this case quite a bit. Often on sale, even for a little bit less. Comes with 4 included ARGB fans. Tons of airflow to it. I really like it. It's a little untraditional in that most of the airflow comes from the bottom, so don't stick this on like thick shag carpet or anything. Overall though, great little RGB strip on the side, $55. Pretty insane value. If you want to get kind of a more vanilla, cheaper, no RGB case, you can find them for about $45 or so and get yourself down to that $600 price point. Power supply, we don't need a lot of power for this. I ended up going with a 650 watt unit. 600 watts would have been fine. It's just, this is the cheapest, C tier rated on the PSU cultist list. So, you know, obviously we're gonna get 650. We're not gonna spend more money to get less wattage. That's the Thermaltake Smart BM2. I'll leave a couple of alternatives down in the video description. You can check out what's best in your region. So for $610, again, if you wanna save a little bit of money on the case, go ahead. This is an insanely performative 1440p gaming PC. And if you wanted to, you could even raise this up in GPU level to like an RX 6700 XT instead for about that $350 price point. So about $120 more. For $730-ish, you'd have a 100 plus FPS at 1440p. Most titles, totally insane value. If you're looking to get a good 1440p monitor to pair with your new 1440p gaming PC, let me give you a couple different options here. If you don't mind curved gaming monitors, they've got the Dell S2722 DGM, really good performance, a VA panel, really great contrast on it, 27-inch, 165 hertz for only $249 right now. That is actually the best deal going as I'm filming this right here. You might ask, well, Jason, didn't you recommend the HP X27Q all the time? I did, but it's gone up from about $210 up to about $280. And I will note that they did a panel change out on some of these, at least. It's slightly inferior to the previous one. So not only the price go up, but the quality went down just a little bit. Right now, I'd probably go with the Gigabyte M27Q. The older version of this is $299 if you want the M27Q-P, which ditches the sub-pixel layout for a slightly better one. It's about $349. But these are my options right now. This is the monitors I would be looking at in March of 2023. For those of you with closer to $1,000 looking for either high FPS at 1440p or 4K 60 plus FPS in most titles at good settings, let me give you a build here that I think is just absolutely screaming in value right now, especially since we just got the news that the RTX 4070 price is likely to be $750. So this GPU level doesn't seem like it's going to be trumped anytime soon, possibly by AMD, but not really by NVIDIA. So let's jump into this build. What makes this thing go? It's the Gigabyte OC Radeon RX 6800. Really, you can get any of the RX 6800s. They have come down in price. They're trending towards about $465, $470 right now. I do expect them probably to go even lower as we get more graphics cards roll out there. And these are great GPUs. You can play either super high FPS at 1080p or 1440p, or you can get that 60 FPS all titles at good settings in 4K. Your NVIDIA options here are kind of limited. Honestly, you're really looking at going up to a 4070 Ti. NVIDIA doesn't really have a card that can compete with this. 3070s, you know, are in that kind of no man's land. They're almost $600 right now. I think we're seeing the end of the 3070s. You might be able to pick one up for like $530, $540 on a sale. But again, you're talking about like another 60 or 70 bucks. If that's worth it to you, by all means, go for it. Otherwise, I'd stick with the RX 6800. We have come up in performance to a Ryzen 5 5600 here. You can go 5700X if you want to spend another 30 or 40 bucks. Doesn't really give you that much more performance. Intel options here are more limited. I mean, yeah, you could look at like a 12600KF, not that much more performance, and then you're in more cooling, all the more costs that come with that as well. So if you're looking for just super price to performance, Ryzen 5600 for $140 still gives you great performance all the way up to probably a 4070 Ti in terms of graphics card or 7900 XT before you really want to swap out that CPU. I just went with a budget B550 board, which here is the Gigabyte DS3H AC. So this comes with Wi-Fi. VRMs are plenty good on it overall. It comes with enough front panel connectivity. I wish it came with a couple more, fan headers, things of that nature. $110, not bad. If you want to go up here, you certainly can. You can look at some of the ASRock boards like the Velocita, which has upgraded audio, upgraded everything else for about $30 more, or you can even look at something like the ASUS TUF B550 Pro, which has a lot more features, including upgraded audio for about $45 more. I went with a white RGB theme to this build, so we went ahead and threw in the Thermalright Assassin X. This is a RGB all white cooler, really, really good performer here by Thermalright. Now, you don't have to get a cooler for this build, of course. It comes with the included Ray Stealth cooler. That being said, it's better thermals, better noise on it, and it looks awesome with that white RGB. For the RAM, we're going to stick with DDR4 3200 CL16. I did end up spending about another $15 on a white RGB kit. You will find that as cheap as DDR4 has gotten, white RGB is kind of more of a niche thing and hasn't seen this huge price reduction that just the regular kind of generic DDR4 kits have. But $50 here for a white RGB looks really slick, will look really nice in our build. And honestly, at 4K, the memory speed matters a lot less, so 3200 CL16 is going to get us by just fine. For the drive, storage remains stupidly cheap. 1 terabyte is the sweet spot, so $45 here. Look, there are some drives with DRAM caches like the Silicon Power A80 you can get for $50 for $6 more if you want to go that direction. We just went with something relatively cheap here. There's a number of these drives. Honestly, you can kind of pick almost any one of them. 1 terabyte for $45 is totally insane. Case, you have a lot of different case options here. I do like the fractal design Pop Air. Remember, we went with white RGB for this particular one. Comes with 3 included RGB fans. I really like the cutouts on the top here for the pass-through for the cables. Love that it's much bigger. I had been recommending the Fantex G360A. I still think it's a good case, but I have had some real pains building in that case lately. Mostly the cable pass-throughs are too small. Fantex, they're too small for the 4+4 pins. You have to really, maneuver them in there. I love cases like this where they actually thought that through. And honestly, it's a little bit cheaper than the Fantex G360A, so right now this one gets my recommendation. For the power supply, nothing fancy here. Now look, we could spend a little bit more money and get a B or an A tier rated PSU. I decided to take the cost savings for 650 watts here and went with a C tier rated one. You can of course go up in the PSU too if you want to have kind of future upgradability. I know these graphics cards are drawing more and more power every day, but 650 watts should be plenty for us at this build level. And for $55, it's a pretty good deal. Overall, $976 again. If you want to take that 20, 30, or $50 extra dollars and you either want to get an NVIDIA GPU, you certainly can. You could upgrade the motherboard here. You could go with a 5700X instead. You could get faster drives, better power supply. You can have some flexibility to kind of kit this out the way you want, or just build it right here, pocket the money and go buy yourself a free game. Let me give you a couple of suggested monitors at 1440p, 240 hertz or higher. If you want that super high refresh rate 1440p experience, we'll do some 4K after the next build, but I would focus on the Gigabyte M27Q-X. $429 for this monitor. It's got the KVM switches on it. It's got a super great panel, good contrast, good color to it. Really, really phenomenal. It's got the HDMI 2.0 ports, which are great if you want to do console on this as well. Remember, with the KVM switches, you can also use the same keyboard and mouse with them. Yeah, $429, really tough to beat. Alienware is trying though, the AW2723DF. This is the successor to the previous Alienware version, which we used to call the king of 1440p high refresh rate IPS panels, has come all the way down to $549. At least right now, it's on sale for $549. Probably its new price, given the fact that 4K monitors have come way down, and they kind of impinge on this price point itself. So it's really has slashed the price quite a bit, and the value as a response has gone up hugely. Now, I would take a look at this if you absolutely need like the best of the IPS high refresh rate monitors. $549, good price. Finally, a monitor I wouldn't recommend right now at this very moment, but the price just fluctuates all over the place, and that's the Samsung Odyssey G7, the 1440p 240 hertz version. This is a VA panel, incredible contrast. It is curved. Some people absolutely love it. Some people not their biggest thing. I would buy this monitor when it gets down to its more typical price of like $500 to $550. Right now, it's a little overpriced as I'm filming this. For those of you with about $1,600 to $2,000 to spend on your build and you're looking at super high FPS 4K, so the GPUs we're looking at here are like the Radeon RX 7900 XT or faster, or the RTX 4070 Ti or faster, and those GPUs have roughly the same performance at the same price point. So about $799 right now. You can get the XFX Speedster Merc, or you can go out and get like the Ventus model MSI for the 4070 Ti right now. What should you be building? Because you've got so many different options. You could go 13600K, 5800X 3D, but right now in March, at least until these deals run out, AMD is offering not only a free game with their CPUs, with the Ryzen 7000 CPU, which is Jedi Survivor, which is coming out at the end of April. I'm super excited about it, but they are also offering huge discounts on bundles, often with motherboards and RAM. The best bundle that I see going right now, and I'll leave a link to this one down in the video description, is over at Newegg. It's with the MSI Pro B650M-A Wi-Fi. Now this is an entry-level-ish B650 motherboard with pretty good features. Entry-level audio on it. Honestly, in terms of Ryzen 7000 motherboards, the ones with upgraded audio cost so much more, you'd probably be better off getting like an external DAC or just spending more money on a digital audio solution rather than trying to go analog, unless you've got a really great pair of analog headphones that you just have to use with it. I'd focus in on one of these cheaper B650 motherboards along with the Ryzen 7600. Great thing about the 7600, you don't have to worry about the high temps and everything. Turn on Precision Boost Overdrive. We're going to get a decent enough cooler, and it's going to give us most of the performance of these high-end GPUs, where it just isn't going to make any sense to go up on our CPU until we go way up on our GPU instead. So we're going to pair that with the Deepcool AK400. This is just a really phenomenal tower cooler. This is not just a budget tower cooler. It's $35. It's super high performance for what it is. You can, of course, go up here. Another cooler that I really like is the Thermalright Peerless Assassin 120. It's got 2 towers to it. $40. I know Gamers Nexus just did a review of it. Totally phenomenal cooler. It's one I've been recommending for quite a while. Honestly, will cool up to like a 13900K on that thing. For the RAM, it's a little more complicated. I would recommend with the MSI motherboards, I have had personally a lot of problems trying to use XMP kits on the MSI motherboards. They work good on my Gigabyte and some other motherboards, but the MSI ones have really flummoxed me. So if we're gonna go with this deal, I would get the G.Skill Trident Z Neo 32 gigabyte kit of, this is a 5600 CL28. So super good latency kit overall. Super fast kit, faster than the 6000 speed a lot of 6000 speed stuff. Because remember that CL28 is super tight timings on it for only $125. Now you get 32 gigs for that, and it has AMD Expo timings. I believe this is on the QVL list for that motherboard as well. Double thumbs up. I would not try and go with an off-brand kit or something that's not on the QVL list. I'd probably even stay away from 6000 speed memory on a lot of the MSI boards right now. Even with the new BIOS update, I was having problems with it. 5600 should be able to work, especially with the Expo timings, something that's already on the QVL list. We're gonna get a 2 terabyte Silicon Power A80 drive. Again, super fast Gen 3 with DRAM cache on it. $102, totally insane right now in terms of the value. They're about to completely make hard drives obsolete in terms of price to performance. For the case, you have a lot of different options here, especially if you want to spend a little bit more money, kind of go up. You could even get something like the Height Y60 if you want to go really crazy. I went something a little bit more sensible right now for about $110. I do like the Deepcool CK560. We did our 5800X 3D gaming build in it. Really did like it. I will note that this front metal panel, it has an attachment here, an attachment there. Under high fan speeds, it did wobble a little bit. Really easy to correct. Just take a really thin piece of duct tape and put it on the top of that thing and then push it in, and it just keeps it super secure. We loved building in this case, and I love that it comes with 3 ARGB fans here, and it comes with 1 rear fan, non-ARGB. You can replace it if you want, or if not, just use it as is. Great overall case for $109. For the power supply, really don't need a lot of wattage. It's a great thing about using a Ryzen 7600 and the RX 7900 XT, especially now with the new driver updates, or the 4070 Ti. Relatively power efficient cards now with their newer driver updates on them. And for $109, we get an A-tier rated 750 watt PSU Enermax Resolution DF. All told for $1,612, totally insane value given the monster amount of performance you're gonna get out of this thing And you're going to get future upgradability with the AM5 platform to something like the 8600 or 9600 or whatever they call it in the future. So you're not going to just be stuck with this. You will have upgradability into the future, and you'll have a great platform to work with. So overall, I think this is a phenomenal build for just $1,612. What about 4K gaming monitors? Well, I've got a couple of really good suggestions for you. Starting off with the Acer Predator XB283K. This is 4K, 144 Hertz. It's got FreeSync Premium on it. It's obviously G-Sync compatible. That means HDMI 2.1. Now listen, this is a great panel, $549. The reason I'm recommending this one first and not necessarily the Gigabyte M28U is because the Gigabyte M28U is the same price, and this one has slightly better features, including a slightly faster bitrate. Doesn't really matter for 4K gaming on a PC. However, if you're going to also use it for console, that slightly faster bitrate will help if you use the HDR feature and other things on it and you want 10-bit color. The other monitor I would take a look at is the Gigabyte M28U. The only problem right now with it is the price. If it was about 10% cheaper than the Predator, I would go ahead and pull the trigger on the M28U unless you need that, extra bitrate for a PS5 or an Xbox Series X or something like that. Really, the feature difference isn't that much. And this does have the KVM switches on it, which is really nice using the same keyboard and mouse with multiple devices. Of course, there's a ton of OLED 4K gaming monitors coming in 2023. They're just not here yet. They are going to be quite pricey though. They're all going to be well over $1,000. So if you want OLED, if you want that incredible HDR experience, and you're not willing to part with like $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 and wait a couple months for them to come in stock, then check out the Aorus FO48U. $849 right now. Really, really good value. This is a monitor, not a TV, but 120 Hertz 4K HDMI 2.1. Really, really phenomenal panel. If you do want something that can double as a TV, same size 48-inch, check out the LG C2 OLED. We have the C1. We use that for both PS5 as well as PC gaming. Really phenomenal. The HDR is absolutely incredible on OLEDs. If you want HDR, you got to get OLED. The Aorus panel would be good. This would also be good for about $996 instead. Remember, if you got value out of the video, give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel, especially this guy right here. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. If you missed our best GPU update for the best price to performance graphics cards in March, we'll leave it right here. We go through every resolution from 1080p to 1440p to 4K. Check it out, and we'll catch you on the next one.